Thomas Jefferson once said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. Don't remain silent. You just jumped in the Pickle Barrel with author, speaker, commentator, and show host Bill Pickles.
Good morning, and happy Monday. Hey, Manic Monday here in the Pickle Barrel. Matter of fact, Manic Monday is good for anywhere you're at, I'm sure. I tell you what, it has been one weird weekend. I tell you, we got the urge to purge out of town this weekend, and Friday after my wife got home from work, we were talking. She says, let's just do it. And so we went out of town and we hit the road and we went all the way up to Virginia. We went to Virginia and spent the weekend and went the back roads, and then the back roads back, just made a big circle. And I tell you what, we had a great time. The weather was beautiful. Oh my God. I tell you what, it is unreal leaving here. And top up on Little Red, the windows up, the AC blowing full blast, and still hot in the car. And you get up there, you put the top down, you put the windows down, and you put a sweater on. It was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I hope all of you had a good weekend, got some rest. I tell you what, we needed it, and we got it, and we had it so much fun. And thank you for being here in the Pickle Barrel this morning. We greatly appreciate it, and we hope that you are ready to jump in here and bring something to the barrel with you that we can discuss. I have a plethora, a whole lot of goodies that we can talk about and we'll talk about, but I do want to hear from you. Chat room on Facebook, obviously, is live in the AmericanPatriotRadio.com site. Chat room's alive. If you want to call in and take part in the conversation live, you can do that too by dialing 712-770-4160. Then put in the PIN number 263151#, and then *6, and you will be live in here and chatting with us. Just lucky you, right? Lucky us, too. So we're glad to have you. Okay, well, let's get started here real quick and do a little bit, just a little bit, to see what went on history this year. This time a few years back, July 31st. Let's see, in 1790, the U.S. Patent Office opens. 1882, Bell and Sam Starr are charged with horse stealing in Indian Territory. Former President Andrew Johnson died on this day in 1875. He was 66 years old, ripe old man for the day. 1891, Great Britain declares territories in South Africa up to the Congo to be within its sphere of influence. They lost that sphere of influence many years later. 1904, the Trans-Siberian Railroad connecting the Ural Mountains and the Russian's Pacific coast is completed. In 1932, Adolf Hitler's Nationalist Socialist German Workers' Party, Nazis, doubled its strength in legislative elections. Let's see here. Some more 1971, Apollo 15 astronauts take a drive on the moon in their Land Rover. When we were at the Houston Space Center a few weeks ago, got to go in there and got to go through one of the shuttles, and we saw the Land Rover there on display, a replica of it. And it was quite the ride, I'm sure. And let's see here, 1988, Sultan Halam ferry terminal capsized and killed 32 and injures more than 1,600. That's a massive accident, isn't it? And 2006, Fidel Castro temporarily, folks, it was temporary, it wasn't permanent. I got into this conversation with someone a couple of weeks ago, but Fidel Castro temporarily handed over the power to his brother, Raul Castro. Excuse me. And in 2007, after many years, the British Army's longest continual operation, Operation Banner, which lasted from 1969 to 2007, ends as the British troops withdraw from their neighbor, Northern Ireland. I tell you what, that was a long occupation, wasn't it? On this day, born on this day, July 31st, 1803, John Ericsson, naval engineer and inventor, developed the screw propeller. Where would we be now without that? 1816, George Henry Thomas, Union general during the American Civil War, was born. 1837, William Cantrell, Confederate raider during American Civil War. Let's see here. Milton Friedman, born in 1912, Nobel-winning economist. Whitney Young Jr., civil rights leader, executive director of the National Urban League, was born in 1921. And J.K. Rowling, author, Harry Potter series, was born on this year, day, 1965. My God, 1965. You mean to tell me I was a teenager before this person was born that wrote Harry Potter? Getting old, but having fun doing it. So those are some of the things that took place this day in history. Let's get started talking about some things that are with us today that we are looking at, and we hope that you will join us in the conversation. Okay, well, first of all, let me tell you that there are some things going on here in South Carolina I want to touch on real quick. And this is actually not just in South Carolina, it's going on in several states, but South Carolina is the one that has the lawsuit going right now. And we ought to be proud of ourselves. We always have something going on in the federal courts, Supreme Court, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, the people in the same-sex relationship in South Carolina should get some legal protections against domestic violence as heterosexual couples. The state's highest court ruled Wednesday, deeming a portion of the state's domestic violence law unconstitutional. Now, what this is about, folks, is the way the law is written now, it excludes people that are of same sex, non-traditional families, of having the same equal protection under the law when it comes to domestic abuse, assault, and things like that. It doesn't specifically say that. It just says that unmarried cohabiting or formerly cohabiting opposite sex couples, while denying it to others, the court said, is not reasonable. And so the Attorney General here, Alan Wilson, whose office argued the case on behalf of the state, said he would ask the court to reconsider its ruling. He said in a statement that he supports an approach to reconcile our state's domestic violence laws with the U.S. Supreme Court precedent, but that his office has defended the constitutionality of the current law, which allows the state to protect spouses, former spouses, and people with children in common. And so that is going to get kind of nasty in the courts. And the decision of the LGBT case leaves some uncertainty Some PD, the PD region is where I live, by the way, South Carolina, say a Supreme Court decision on domestic violence needs to go even deeper or have a deeper look at it. And they refer back to last week's court ruling. And what it does exactly is current law defines household members in domestic cases as a spouse, former spouse, people with children in common, or men and women who are or have lived together. It does not include unmarried same-sex couples. And so there's where the lawsuits come into play, and it's going to be very interesting to see where that goes. I'm sure that no matter who you are, you can take 10 people on that and probably get 5 against 5 on what should be done. Or I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you find 10 people there that have 10 different ideas on how to solve this situation. But the courts are going to be the ones that has to do it, and by gosh, they will. So that's one thing that's coming up here in our area of the country, and there's more out there. Real quickly, I want to go over and look at some Rasmussen reports that I pulled up over the weekend, yesterday exactly. It says here, and I just want to ask you your opinion on this and what y'all think. Please let me know in Facebook or in the chat room here at the AmericanPatriotRadio.com, or call in 712-770-4160. Put in the PIN number 263151, and then if you'd like to talk, *6 and share your thoughts. Who does our president answer to? Does he answer to Congress? Does he answer to the people? Does he answer to nobody? And who does our congressman answer to? Do they answer to the people? Do they answer to the president? Or, as many people feel, and I do too, that more and more of them are starting to answer to the media and to those who put big money in their pockets for campaigns and whatever else that money may be used for, legally, and in some cases, not legally. So who do they answer to? Well, according to Rasmussen, 55% say Congress are more responsive to the media than to voters. The latest report was a national telephone and online survey. It found that 55% are likely U.S. voters believe that what the media thinks matters more to the average member of Congress than what the voters think. Now, still, that may be true, but last survey that was done, and that was back in, it's been several years ago. It was 62% of the people felt that way. So I believe that was in 2009, I believe, when that one was done, October 2009. And they felt that during the President Obama's first year in office. Now, just 30% say the average member cares more than what the voter thinks. 15% are undecided. But, back in October 2009, then only 21% felt that most Congress cared more about what their constituents think. 21%. So, in other words, we don't mean a heck of a lot to our congressman, do we? Now then, I'm hoping that I'm going to have to dig a little deeper. I'd like to see what our people here in South Carolina thought about that. I'm going to have to look at that and see. But, I think that's kind of bad. I think that's kind of bad. These people that go around here, they have these coffees, they have these workshops, they have these get-togethers locally. They have their little powwows, and then they forget it. Sounds kind of bad, don't it? More than 31%, folks, believe that their own representative in Congress cares what they think. 51% disagree and say even their own elected representatives don't care what's on their minds. 17% said, I just don't know. Now, you know, even that 17% should tell you something. You know, I may be old and cranky. I may be rusty. I may be an old rust belt person. But I will tell you this. I think it's a sad state of affairs. Even 17% have to say, I don't know who my congressman listens to. They should know. We all should know. We all should know. Our elected officials should know, but evidently they don't. Well, maybe they do. Maybe they know. Maybe they know they couldn't get elected without those big donors. Or they could get elected without them, but they couldn't campaign as much or have some moolah to play with. Makes one wonder, doesn't it? Makes one wonder. Well, I tell you what, I find it very disheartening. Some other things on this survey was 44% of all voters believe most reporters are trying to block President Trump from passing his agenda. Now, I am surprised at that number. I thought that would be even more. Now, by comparisons at this time during Obama's presidency, 48% said most reporters were trying to help President Obama pass his agenda. That was in 2010. So, what does that tell you, my friends? Something we might already know, that there's a lot of the media out there that is not trying to support the president. There's no surprise. We all have known that since before he was even elected. Republicans traditionally, just for your information, are more suspicious of the media than Democrats. I wonder why. Being sarcastic with that question. And that's clear again in the latest survey. While 62% of the GOP voters and 60% of voters not affiliated with either major political party think the average member of Congress cares more about what the media thinks, only 45% of Democrats/liberals felt that way. So they got more faith in the media than conservatives. Maybe that's because that's the way the media covers most things anymore. They don't cover it from a conservative angle. Matter of fact, it's hard to tell what angle they do cover it on. Are they covering the issues? Are they covering the president? Are they covering the issues and talking about the issues? Or are they covering it in a manner that it slants against the president? Good question. Good question. Well, they say that most people under 40 are nearly twice as likely as their elders to believe most of Congress do care what their voters think. Those under 40 believe that Congress members really care what we think. Now, that says a whole lot about that older generation, the baby boomers that are now up in the years. You know, why is it we would be more likely not to believe that our people are listening to us?
Smarter.
Smarter. Good morning, Brian. See there? You're not my age and you figured that out. Congratulations. How are you doing in Pennsylvania?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Those are some interesting polls you have there. It's just a shock to me. Again, I said this before, but I can't believe in such a short period of time that the left wing has turned into essentially a bunch of brown shirts. It's like the Republican Party post 9/11, times, on steroids.
Uh-huh. Why is that, Brian? What has separated the generations that far?
Dave would talk about this, and there's a lot of truth. The education, lack of critical thinking, confirmation bias, just an unwillingness to hear differing points of view, to learn from other people.
Whoa! You mean people that listen to other people might learn something?
I'm not saying it's likely. I'm saying
it's possible.
I mean, not with millennials. They know everything there is to know.
Aren't you a millennium?
No.
Oh, you're
Generation X.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, congratulations.
What could a millennial learn? They have everything figured out. They have all these great, genius, brilliant ideas. Who'd ever think that it was such a wonderful, elegant, fashion statement to, have your body covered in tattoos or have all kinds of weird piercings or dye your hair blue. If you're a woman, shave your head. I mean, these people are just geniuses. I mean, they know everything. I mean, they just have some kind of genius millennial wisdom that no other generation in human history has ever had.
Yeah, Brian, have you seen those pictures that are on Facebook ever so often that get circulated around these? I won't say ladies. I don't know if they are or not. These females. These females. That all of the skin that you can see, including their entire face, their shaved head, ears, everywhere, is solid tattoos with these metal studs and hooks and all that stuff through their nose and their lips and their ears and all of that. I tell you what, makes you hot, don't it?
Bill, you're just being too judgmental.
Oh, I'm being too judgmental? Okay.
That's like my favorite, millennial, ultra-liberal kind of thing. You're just too judgmental. It's like, excuse my language, weird shit by just saying if you criticize it or notice it, you're being judgmental, when the reality is that, if this country collapses, people will look back years from now and say, well, of course it collapsed. Look at all the weird shit, hair, covered in tattoos.
Yeah.
You add another gender option when there are only two genders. I mean, just no wonder. But yeah, I mean, apparently, from what I've learned from being around them, is that they have just a wisdom and knowledge that, nobody else has ever possessed in human history. Because they clearly know how to build a great country.
Yeah. I had a young lady. Yeah. I had a young lady about, it's been 5 or 6 months ago now. We were talking, we was at one of the local eateries, and she was a waitress. Actually, she was working the bar area. And she had mentioned that she was interviewing for some jobs a couple of weeks earlier. And we were up there having dinner, and she was still there. And I asked her, I said, well, how's the job search going? She said, well, it's not going too well. I've had 3 people tell me that their dress policy does not allow exposed tattoos. Well, her arms were just like those I were talking about. And she had the little teardrop tattoos, 3 teardrops under one eye. And she had those, what are those things called in your ear that's got the hole in them and they're real big?
Yes, like you almost don't have it here anymore. It like swallows it up.
Yeah, I mean, you could pour water through it. I mean, you could probably stick a water hose through it. It's so big, you know. They've got those big old things in their ear, and so she says, I've just about decided to quit looking. Nobody wants to hear me or hire me, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, really? I wonder why.
So you're saying you think there could be some correlation between the two?
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, she got all these tattoos showing, and their dress policy does not allow visible tattoos, which I know there's a lot of companies like that. My wife, where she works, you know, you can have all the tattoos you want as long as they are covered, you know, while you're at the job.
So why didn't she wear like a long sleeve shirt?
Oh, gosh, then she couldn't strut her stuff.
Well,
so she's going to be bartender for the rest of her life. Oh, Lordy.
I guess it's worth it.
I reckon it is. I guess it is, you know. Hope you enjoy your...
Sometimes you see people, like as I go to the Whole Foods once in a while, you see people there, and people just have this thing about them. Like they have that look, like the, I don't want to get a job kind of look.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
Weird tattoos, piercings, you know, just stuff that you look at and you say, like, there's no way this person can want to have a job because, you know, the way they present themselves.
And then you hear them say, well, it's not fair. Everybody's got more than I do, you know. Everybody's got more than I do. I can't make a living. I can't buy things like that. Yeah, you know, it's because you spent your money doing something like that.
Right.
So, I don't know. So, well, Brian, you know, you're the Generation X. Now, Generation X has got a few flaps against them in the past, but you know, from what I'm seeing, most of the ones I know of Generation Xers are doing pretty darn good for themselves. So, what's the difference between the X and the whatever it's called now? You know,
whatever.
Yeah.
The millennials and whatever else.
Yeah.
I think the education's changed. I mean, look, the reality is, you know, 10, 15 years ago, Generation Xers weren't doing as well. You get older, you know, you move up in your job and life, you learn more. So what's to say that millennials in 10 years won't be doing a hell of a lot better? I just, from some of the conversations I have with some of them and the idiotic stuff they do and the beliefs that they have, it's cause for concern. I think that the least tolerant people that I've come across tend to be millennials. The most prejudicial, the most, you know, bigoted people that I come across are millennials because I see sometimes they have this like fascistic idea of the world, that the world has to conform to their belief system and there's no room for compromise and there's no middle ground and there's no room for diversity in terms of your belief system. That troubles me.
Yeah.
But they can get older, you do better in your job. You learn more, you grow up more from your early 20s to your late 20s and 30s. So I think it remains to be seen. But I think the returns so far aren't so great. And hey, by the way, you know, my generation, the Gen Xers, it was the boomerang generation was the Gen Xers, where you had kids going to college, and after college, because of debt and because of the jobs, because of whatever else, you had a lot of Gen Xers coming home and staying home for years and years.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, it's not like the Gen Xers have been perfect either, but it's...
well, you know, Brian, you know, we have a son. He's Gen X. And, well, wait a minute. I'm confused again here now. You're what, Gen X or millennial?
Gen X.
Gen X. Okay, Gen X. What? That's the... Okay, he's Gen X. And he didn't do too good in school. And we said, okay, look, we're going to help you out. But what you're going to have to do, you're going to have to move in, and you're going to have to go to school. We'll help you there. Local, not where you're at now, and totally two states away. And you're going to have a B average on your grades if we're going to help you. He agreed.
Right.
He agreed. Now this kid, The only thing he made A's in or B's in prior to coming home was in athletics, football, and partying. Those are the only two things he knew what to do. He graduated from Francis Marion University with a 3.82 average. And about a month ago, he got his master's degree, and he is administration, student affairs at a big school in Sarasota, Florida. Couldn't be more proud of him. All he had to have was I can do it, I want to do it, and a little determination and a little bit of encouragement from his parents.
Right.
And, but the key there, again, was he had to want to. And I don't know how many kids out there right now really understand that they have to want to survive, to make it ahead, and they've got to work at it to get ahead. It's not going to be handed to them on a platter.
Well, and I think a lot of them are ill-prepared mentally, psychologically,
Mm-hmm.
Because the world can be tough.
Yeah.
In the real world, not everybody gets the participation ribbon.
Right. I hate those things.
Sometimes you lose.
Yeah, I hate those participation ribbons.
It's a sign of the apocalypse.
Yeah.
But in the real world, hey, life can be hard. Sometimes you get the job, sometimes you don't.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you get the promotion, sometimes you don't. Sometimes things are going really well in life, sometimes things aren't.
Mm-hmm.
But if the mentality is that everybody's a winner,
mm-hmm.
And then you get out into the real world, and you find that's not the case, and that you have to work, and that not everything's going to be handed to you. That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And if you find out, in the real world, playing a victim or whatever, that doesn't fly. It can be tough.
Mm-hmm.
I just think, again, the education system, it's as if people are being brainwashed, especially younger people, because there's so much that you need to learn that you don't learn.
Yeah. Donna in the chat room says, no, they want it handed to them. It's a lazy generation.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth there. I'll say this. I don't want to sound like a millennial, but I don't think they were dealt the best hand in terms of the economy. But
mm-hmm.
I do believe no matter what, you have to work as hard as you possibly can. I think there's never any excuse in life for not working as hard as you possibly can, not being the best, doing the best that you can. Yeah. That bothers me.
Well, I know a lot of millennials that have done quite well, but then I know a lot that didn't and haven't, and some of them probably will never do well because it's what's in between their head, their ears, and what's in their heart that is just not working together. That's just the way it is. And
I think it's a problem in Congress too. They got what's between their ears doesn't work too well.
Yeah. I think that one of the issues is that, and I know that some of the liberals are going to say, yeah, there you go, Bill, you're going down that route again. But I think some people are just so used of someone else taking care of me, someone else feeding me. I may not eat the best in the world. I may not have the best house in the world, but by God, I'm going to have the best car that anybody can drive, and I'm going to be living it, and I'm not going to have to work very much. I think that's the attitude some people have, and that is wrong. That is wrong. But when are we as a society, when are we going to put the pressure on those type of individuals? When is that pendulum going to change? Or are we going to stay in this gutter attitude that we have?
I think you have to make drastic changes to the education system.
That's one place it's got to start. One place it must start.
I think the parents are the most important thing. And I think that, again, my glass half full kind of part is, I think, in the end, if you have a strong economy and, than we've had, that you can build, I said this before a lot, a coalition of 60 to 65% of the population, and you will move a lot of younger people away from this fascism, revolutionary, assassinate president kind of stuff, and they'll be working good money
mm-hmm.
you know, with a good job, raising a family, and they'll want to put their, you know, they'll you know, stop being brown shirts.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, you know, the larger picture is, I think, a couple of things. I think it's parents and education, and I think it's just getting our country on the right track.
Mm-hmm.
You know, look, you just bring prosperity to people. It's like, even in the 30s, maybe there wasn't prosperity
mm-hmm.
brought to people. But all those people in their 20s and 30s and late teens that would become revolutionaries because of all the infrastructure projects and civilian conservation corps and all that other stuff, they were too busy working,
right,
and actually maybe not making a great living, but at least not the soup kitchens and the bread lines. And so they were making a living, and they weren't becoming revolutionaries. I think now the biggest way to turn the tide is just to continue to turn the economy around. And, you know, you'll get enough millennials that'll, you know, move away from all this dangerous fascism that they've become a part of. And they'll become, you know, productive members of society and make a good living, and they'll raise their kids, and that'll change. So,
well, let me ask you this, Brian.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You know, we're getting into a generational stage in our government that, you know, we are seeing more slowly, some people say way too slow, we're seeing more and more of the older generations in Congress starting to fade away. And we're getting the newer generations in there, you know, different ideas, different thoughts, different work ethics, different take on the liberalism, conservatism, centrist, you know, the new centrist movement seems to be taking matter of fact, I'm trying to get in touch with the leader of the South Carolina centrist movement, see if he'll come in here and talk with us. That party is looking for relevance and a place in the mix of things. And they're putting on a pretty good show right now of succeeding in that. So where do we go in our government with this new change? Are we going to see the Republicans and the Democrats much less important in the whole scheme of things? Or are we going to see them still hold to the bedrock and these others just going to be flip-flopping out there not knowing what's going on?
I think the best chance is that both parties, you know, are reformed. And I think there are really only two choices moving forward. Either we're going to have this left-wing brown shirt fascism mixed with the neoconservatism, because a lot of the neocons have left the Republican Party because of Trump, because he's not enough of a warmonger. And you're either going to have that, and that's going to be the predominant thinking in both parties, which it really is already, or you're going to have the not libertarianism, you know, not Reagan conservatism in the Republican Party, but the populist nationalist foreign policy realism. It's not going to be, if you're a libertarian, you're not going to be satisfied because it's not going to be as free market enough, but you'll get 80% of what you want. But I think it's either populism or it's going to be, you know, that fascism, globalization, you know, global fascism and neoconservatism. So in essence, I think the best chance is not a third party, which I don't see, or a centrist movement, because a lot of times centrist movements are too establishment. They're wishy-washy people that are a little wonkish, and they talk about process reforms, but not bread and butter issues. And they shy, like, you know, and more than likely a centrist movement is going to be pro-globalization, pro-free trade, you know.
Well, you just went down my list of questions and comments that I was going to have for this guy. I'm going to have to invite you to be co-host that day or something, you know.
I'd be curious. You know, maybe I'll be wrong, but I know they tried one of these things before. And, you know, I'm really honestly, I don't look at myself as a hardcore conservative. I think we should maintain Social Security and Medicare. Yeah. But the point is that a lot of times with the centrist movements, you know, sometimes you either have to build a bridge or not build a bridge. You can't build half the bridge. And, you know, sometimes you have to make difficult decisions where, you know, not everybody's going to like you. And centrists seem to be these wishy-washy, middle-of-the-road people that, you know, don't really take a strong stand on difficult issues and tend to side with the establishment. I think they have like a third-way movement 6 or 7 years ago. And then when I started reading about the issues they were talking about, it was like almost a waste of time, and it had no chance of gaining real traction,
right?
Because there was no populism. Again, the way moving forward, we're either going to continue with globalization and everything else it's brought, or there's going to be a real populism, and that's what Trump brings to the table, and that's the only two choices moving forward.
Okay.
For the Republican Party in the long run, it's Reagan conservatism isn't going to do it. Libertarianism isn't going to do it. Neoconservatism isn't going to do it. It's either they're going to become more populist, more nationalist and foreign policy realists, or they're going to become more irrelevant.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to bring some specifics to this and get your opinion. And anybody else that wants to jump in here on this, please feel free to do so, whether it's in the chat rooms or call in or whatever. You know, right now, one party rule is just about thrown out the window. I think that the Democrats, I think the Republicans both have some very deep issues within their party. And I think that they have a very serious, deep issue with communicating to their political leaders in D.C., Senate, House, and President. All three of those. I think we have some serious issues with working and communicating with them. And I think that, you know, President Trump, let's just go ahead and say right now, he ended the week's polls at his lowest point, 41%. Okay.
Right.
John McCain. Okay. Now we're going to go from there to the Senate. John McCain,
right.
You know, late Thursday killed for all means and purpose the changes to Obamacare. Not by himself, but he certainly was a major player in that game. GOP voters overwhelmingly support repealing and replacing health care law. That's been said over and over and over and over again. And Trump is, well, he's just echoing, if you want to call it that, or replaying or reverbing, whatever you want to call it, the same call. However, you got a Senate that just keeps failing to deliver on that demand. I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just telling you how the thing is working.
It's just what it is.
It is what it is. And I think most Republicans, once again, say GOP members of Congress have lost touch with the party voters. And you're seeing that some of the Democrats are starting to see that same issue. So this draining the swamp deal, you know, this promise of draining the swamp, first I think they got to find the plug. And so far, I don't think they found that plug so they can drain that swamp.
Yeah.
Do you?
Well, and no, I mean, I think the swamp creatures are fighting tooth and nail to preserve the status quo. I think personally last week, I think what's happened with health care has been bad, especially because a guy like McCain ran for his re-election on repealing Obamacare, so you know, he lied. But the thing that happened, I thought it was far worse, were these sanctions with Iran, Russia, and North Korea. Passed the Senate 98-2, and I think all but a handful of people in Congress voted for these sanctions as well. And again, the reason I bring this up is because the country as a whole, realistically, left and right is tired of it, but Republican voters in mass rejected neoconservatism and this concept of America, you know, being a unipolar world power.
Right.
You know, Republicans have really rejected it. And this is, you know, another, you know, in a long line of actions that, you know, make the world, you know, more chaotic.
Right.
Belligerent. And Republican voters didn't, now Trump had nothing to, no, Trump voted for it, but it had veto-proof majorities anyway. But the people that voted for Trump were chanting, build that wall, not sanction Russia, not sanction Iran.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you had, I think probably Rand Paul was the only Republican senator that voted against the sanctions, and here to him for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it shows you, that the Republican Party, amazingly, even though this guy saved the party, are acting as if Trump didn't win, and that the mandate that the voters wanted doesn't exist.
Right.
And, by the way, we talk about the economy a lot here, and Russia said this. If you continue with these sanctions on Russia and cut off Russia from Western Europe and the United States, it's only going to drive them closer to China and India.
Mm-hmm.
And if Russia starts feeling, and they really are because they're expelling all those diplomats, if Russia starts feeling that they can't work with America, that every time Putin tries to reach out his hand, he gets punched in the face, then eventually, they're just going to give up on America entirely.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to start, when they do trades and they trade with other countries, they're going to stop trading in dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So the dollar is the world reserve currency.
Mm-hmm.
Dollar will be weakened tremendously.
Mm-hmm.
So our economy in the long run.
Well,
the dollar is no longer the world reserve currency.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people say, and I heard a couple people this weekend, I always have my eyes and ears open when I'm in restaurants and places, and I was hearing someone behind us talking, and one of them said, right, what we're saying right here, right now, Brian, he said, our next war, we're not going to lose it on the battlefield. We're going to lose it on the economic field.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? I didn't say this out loud, but I was thinking to myself, I said, man, I believe you're on the right track.
Yeah. And it's insane to me, that we have so many people in Washington with delusions of grandeur. Look, Russia's a world power. China's a world power. It is what it is. You don't have to like them, but you have to deal with it realistically speaking. And if we could deal with Russia and China the way they were 50 years ago, we can certainly deal with them now.
Yeah.
And it really, it was such a bad thing that happened this week with that vote, because, if you're going to tell us that it's a problem for Trump even to talk to Putin, that even Trump meeting with Putin's controversial, we can't even talk to Russia, then how am I to conclude anything other than the fact that they want a war with Russia if talking to them is not even allowed? Kennedy was allowed to meet with Khrushchev in 1961 at the height of the Cold War. That was not controversial. But Trump literally, merely meeting with Putin is controversial. And then you have another round of sanctions. By the way, if you're a Republican in Congress and you voted for those sanctions, in essence, what's your justification for doing that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Are you in essence endorsing this ridiculous nonsense that there was collusion with Russia? Because there wasn't. Are you trying to undermine your own president?
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it, doesn't it? Don't you think that's exactly what it sounds like? People are trying to undermine the president, even within his own party.
Yeah, they should just come out and be honest and say they'd rather have President Pence. That they want Trump gone. I wouldn't have respect for them, but I would at least they could be honest about what they're trying to do, which is try to, sabotage their own president and give their voters the middle finger. They should at least be honest about that. And by the way, the other thing that I don't like is Iran's been abiding to the terms of the nuclear deal. Why are we imposing more sanctions on Iran? Iran's fighting terrorism in Syria and in Yemen. So I'd rather deal with the devil I know than the devil I don't know.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
And if Iran's fighting terrorism in Syria and in Yemen, that makes them, to me, somebody I could work with more than Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, it sounds like someone you'd want to play golf with, don't it? You want them on your side. Well, I think one of the big issues though is that as much as I hate to say it, but I believe this. Just 15% of voters give Congress positive marks for job performance. 15%. Now then, most have a very, very unfavorable opinion of the top congressional leaders. Now, if you don't have trust in your Congress, if you don't have trust in your leadership in Congress, And you have 76, 78, I don't know, 76, 78% of the people believe that the media is biased against Congress, Republican Congress, and the president. What is there out there that shows that there's any chance they can get anything done that people would accept and work with?
Well, I mean, I think the president really, to the extent that he can, although he's got, so many, I think he's tried to deliver on his promises. I didn't like that he went along with the sanctions, but they had veto-proof majorities anyway.
Right.
Anytime he doesn't act in the most militaristic, belligerent terms with Russia, they try to claim that there's collusion with Russia, so he's put in an impossible spot. But, I mean, I think, to me, the one guy that I have any bit of confidence in all is Trump, because I feel that he's making a good faith effort to the extent that he can to keep his promises. I've never seen a president like that in my lifetime. In terms of Congress, I have a Republican senator, didn't vote for him. I have a Republican congressman, didn't vote for him. And what I've seen since then, to me, in my eyes, justifies me not voting for them, because they're exactly what they've always been.
Right.
And I don't see them ever lifting a finger, to try to defend the president on these Russian collusion charges.
Yeah, it's unreal. It's unreal.
I don't think you can have faith in Congress. I think in my opinion, the whole thing with the sanctions bill just proves that. They just don't get it. Look, Republican voters are sick of war. Build the wall, focus on the economy. Actually try to listen to your voters for once instead of your donors and all these genius think tank people and people in the Pentagon that aren't concerned about a war that could get tens of millions of people killed and destabilizing the rest of the world. And, the other thing about this, I know I'm going off on a tangent, Bill, forgive me, but, Israel should get their head out of their ass really soon, too, because if I were them, I'd try to be friends with Iran, because, it's nice that they can talk to Saudi Arabia, but the biggest exporter of terrorism in the Middle East is Saudi Arabia. And if Saudi Arabia had their way, you would have had the government in Syria, and Syria borders Israel. You would have had the government overthrown, and Syria would have become Libya, and that would have made, things much less safer for Israel. I don't think, I think Israel and I think Netanyahu and that government are doing a crummy job, because, all these world events that are happening, the refugee crisis in Europe, it's changing things in ways where Israel is going to be alone and by themselves if they don't start, rethinking themselves and understanding who their friends are and who their friends aren't.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the big issues we have right now is that we have this big gap. Matter of fact, we have this Grand Canyon gap between the president and Congress. I think that is the one of the big issues. I think right now that I think the president is a man without a Congress. He's a man without a party. I think for all logical explanations, just the way it appears, is pretty clear that he is he's on that island by himself, and it's going to be very hard to get things accomplished in that type of a situation. And
that's a real question, Bill.
All right, real quick.
What would be more likely to get Republican voters excited and vote, reelect their Republican congressmen and senators in 2018? Sanctions against Iran, North Korea, and Russia, or building the wall?
I think building the wall, number one. I think that I think of all of those, that would be number one on the list. That would get more of the men on the street Republicans more vocal and pushing more for Congress to support Trump.
Do you think the voters are right in that case, or do you think the voters are off the mark?
Do you think that matters? Do they have to be right to make it work?
No, I'm just curious what your opinion is.
You know, I'll be honest with you. I am not one of those that believe that we should have a literal wall across our border. I am not. I think there's other ways it can be done. I mean, my gosh, we're supposed to be so big in high tech. I mean, let's use this technology instead of brick and mortar. But you know, everybody wants that physical wall. I guess you got to see it to believe in it. I don't know. Now then, you're taking it back over to the sanctions. First of all, I need to find out from everyone, do these sanctions really do anything? I mean,
they do. I mean, maybe not positive, but they absolutely have real consequences. Whether you think they're good or bad, I mean, they do have real life, real world consequences.
Well, yeah.
The only question is whether you think they're good or bad. I think they're bad, but I'd be curious to know your opinion.
Well, I think majority of the sanctions that we do are petty. I mean, now, yes, the sanctions themselves work. Let me backtrack, okay? I think the sanctions themselves generally do some good in that particular area. However, is there not, you know, is there not another way that we could work together? I mean, you know, I've got my.
Are you sick of this? Aren't you sick of this kind of stuff?
I am sick of it. I'm sick of the games that's being played. I think it's pretty obvious I'm sick of it, and it's a nasty, cruel, gut wrenching, pucker your butt situation we're in. It's dirty. It's nasty, and nothing, obviously nothing is working. You know, if you look at the big picture, Brian, nothing is really working. And one group wants to do this, one group wants to do this. Well, we're going to refuse to do this. Well, we're going to refuse to this. Well, now aren't we getting a lot accomplished?
I mean, it's just I don't get it. I don't get, especially with what happened in this election, how the Republicans in Congress could somehow interpret that their voters have a thirst for more militarism and, you know, more mongering and making enemies out of the other two major world powers. I don't get how they could somehow intuit that, you know, from the results of the election or in the future, that that's what voters want. And not only that, that's a good idea. I mean, you got two other world powers. You want to be enemies with them? You know, we can't even talk to these other countries. I mean, like, what is wrong with them? Not to mention the fact that there's going to be nothing positive that comes out of this. You're just going to draw those two countries closer together. You're gonna make it so that Russia and China become best friends because they have nowhere else to turn to. And and eventually, what you're going to do is you're going to draw India into their orbit, and you're going to have over two and a half billion people between India and China plus Russia and everything they have. And you're going to have enemies with 30-40% of the world's population, the other two major world powers, and another emerging, power. You're going to become enemies with them. I mean, don't they get it? And by the way, from what I'm reading in Russia, all these sanctions have done is that they've made, the Russian economy, the Russians more self-reliant. They don't rely as much on imports. They build up their agricultural sector and they build up their manufacturing. I mean, they don't work. And if you keep doing this, they're going to turn away from using the American dollar when they do their trading. Right. So I don't see anything positive come from this. But, I guess I haven't been a lawyer and a career politician my whole life.
Yeah. Well, different topic. All right. I'll tell you what, it is top of the hour, Brian. We need to take our break. I hope you can hold on. Good conversation going on. If you can, great. If you can't, I appreciate you being here, and we'll catch you on rebound. I know that you're in and out quite a bit. So, but we do need to take this break. And so we're going to do that, folks. We're going to take about a 2-minute break, give or take a little bit there, and give everybody a chance to get something to drink, make your trip to where or whatever. And we'll be right back here in the Pickle Barrel where we'll continue this conversation. And we're going to talk about, is this country a country without leadership, whether it be Congress or the president. And is the president a president without a country, or is our country without a president? And we're going to talk about, is our president a man without a political party? And so those are just some of the things we're going to look at, and I do have a ton more if we have the time. So we'll be right back here in the Pickle Barrel. Don't run off.
Welcome back. You're in the Pickle Barrel with Bill Pickle.
Welcome back. Welcome back. You are in the Pickle Barrel. We're all in that proverbial pickle barrel, just trying to find a way to get out of it. And I think more and more and more every day, this pickle barrel is getting crowded. You know, my big hopes of some of us being able to crawl out of it after the election, I don't see where that's happening. I think we're seeing more and more people jump in it. We're in trouble more and more and more and more every day. But no one is in trouble any more than our president. And I mentioned that we're going to talk about whether he was a president without a party, a president without a country, or is the country without a party or a president. I mean, this is a big mess, folks. And I think that something better start happening. Something better start happening, or we're going to be really crowded in this pickle barrel. You know, Reince Priebus made history last week. And, you know, some people are saying, well, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Some are saying that since Reince Priebus was treated that way, yes, he did resign. Okay? Before anyone says he wasn't fired, he resigned. You know, I know a lot of people in my life that have resigned to keep from having that fired tattoo put in their record or on their forehead. It's a matter of politics itself that people will resign instead of being fired. All right? Now then, I made the comment when Reince Priebus. Yeah, I figured you would.
I think, can we prove it 100%? No, but I think absolutely he was one of the leakers. And I say that because you never heard the establishment press have anything negative to say about Reince Priebus. I think the deal was that he leaked information and in exchange got favorable coverage from the media. I think that's unquestionably what was going on there.
Well, you know, I don't know. You know, we'll probably never know until memoirs are written, right? But I will tell you this: Reince Priebus did a lot for the Republican Party, and well, let's back up and do a little.
I would argue he didn't.
Oh, you would? You would? Okay. Well, Brian, I for one was very active in the Republican Party during his reign, and the party was in dire straits. Membership was down, leadership was down, financially it was all but bankrupt, and under his leadership, he got that all turned around with great success, and I think he did a wonderful job for the Republican Party. Now then, did he do everything exactly the way that the leadership wanted? No, he did not. And, you know, in that respect, I think he resembles Trump a little bit. You know, Trump did his own thing his own way, and Reince Priebus did the same thing. But in the meantime, though, he was able to pull the party together. We had upturn in membership that was just awesome, and we had people working together from state to state for the first time in a very long time. And so I think he did a good job. Now then, could he have done better? Probably. And you know what? Just like President Trump will get some things accomplished. But could he do better if he had the support of the party or those others out there that are trying to stab him in the back, or even more so, those out there that are Chicken Little to do their part to stand up and support the man? And I think that's where a lot of the issue is, that we have some people out there that are so concerned about their own future in politics that they're not supporting the president of the United States. And in the meantime, folks, I'm telling you right now, you are hurting your own chances of future in politics because of your asinine attitude and actions and non-actions.
Well, see, the way I look at it is whatever Trump's personality flaws are, and they're certainly there. There's no question.
All of us have personality flaws to a certain extent. He just flaunts his a little more.
He's got the big one. He's got the big one. He ruffled a lot of feathers.
Yes, he does.
Did some things that I didn't think were necessary. There's no question. I mean, you can't deny that.
Right.
However, he did give the party, I believe, in terms of policy, a blueprint to be a majority party for decades to come.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody else in the party has been able to do that. I mean, he gave them a blueprint. Like, look, stop with all the wars. Stop with all the regime change and the militarism. Stop with the globalization and the trade deals. They're not working. Stop with the open borders. Put some, let's invest in infrastructure. Stop talking about privatizing Social Security. I mean, and used with a lot of the traditional Republican ideas we've had for the last 30 years. When he gave them a blueprint to be a viable, strong majority party. Nobody else has done that. The party establishment's pretty much worked against it. When Reince Priebus was chief of staff, instead of putting people around Trump that were in agreement philosophically with him,
right,
he surrounded Trump with a lot of establishment Republicans
right,
that have not worked with him. Did Reince Priebus really make a grand effort to give Trump everything that he could give him so Trump could win the election after he won the nomination? I would argue he didn't.
Well, Brian, let's right here for a minute. Don't you think a lot of that, though, may be because of the lack of communication between the two? Report after report after report would tell you that, yes, Trump would stand beside Priebus. He would talk with Priebus, but when it came to working on day-to-day activities, you very rarely saw them together.
Well, and I think that's probably because Priebus had no desire whatsoever to work with Trump on his populist nationalist agenda. I think in the eyes of Priebus, his goal was to surround Trump with establishment figures and try to get Trump to move in the direction the establishment wanted to go. I think Trump probably figured that out early on. Well,
I'll tell you what I think. I think that Rebus was never put in there because of his talent or position. No, I won't say scratch position, because of his talent or because Trump wanted him in there or intended for him to be in there very long. I think it was all for show on Trump's side. I think it was all for show. This was a thank you very much for your leadership and helping get me elected, but don't unpack. Okay? This is a short time position.
Yeah, but I think if Priebus would have worked with Trump and done a good job and put good people around Trump, I don't think that job had to have been a short-term position.
You mean if he would have, I would hope that would be true, Brian, but I really don't. I really don't think it was ever intended that he'd be there very long.
Well, because I think that Trump had no illusions about what Priebus was going to try to do. Hey, look, remember, didn't Priebus help author that 2012 Republican presidential autopsy report for coming out of the failure of Romney that basically said that the Republicans didn't need to change anything. All they needed to change was they needed to try to compete with the Democratic Party in terms of promoting open borders.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that was really what the autopsy report said. It said that Romney, who really was not strong in immigration enforcement and backed away from all of his promises in the federal election, was still too tough on enforcing immigration laws, and that's why they changed. And apparently, unless I'm remembering wrong, I think Priebus was a part of that autopsy report and more or less endorsed it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the school he comes from. The guy's like best friends with Paul Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So you have people that are philosophically at odds.
Mm-hmm.
I think, what Trump tried to do after the election was bring these establishment people in the hopes that, if you make them your friend, they're no longer your enemy, and that they would work with him, because I think he was under the misguided, although well-intentioned delusion that in the end, people want to see the country move forward in a positive direction. But what he came to find out, which is that, you can't work with these establishment people. If they're not interested in working with you. They're not interested in moving the country forward in a positive direction. They have a view of the world that they're not going to change, and the only thing they're going to try to do is try to get you to change. And so Trump tried to work with them and collaborate with them, and he's found that gradually he can't work with them. He's finding out the same thing with McMaster. I mean, these people have a view of the world which has been predominant for the last 25 years, and which Americans have seen very few benefits from, and has made the world a lot more dangerous, but they're not willing to change. And so the only thing you can do is get rid of these people, because they're just going to try to sabotage you and sabotage the movement. And I'm sorry, but Brent Priebus might be a nice guy to have a beer with. He doesn't seem like a bad guy when you hear him talk, but I think that partnership went together like oil and water. And I do believe he was the leaker, because you notice the Trump administration, certain people get grilled and filleted, and other people, the establishment media never says one word bad against them. My belief is that that's the case because the leakers have views that are aligned with the establishment, and the deal they make is we're going to give you inside information and access, and you're not going to criticize us. That's why people like Bannon get killed.
Well, I think, I think that the working relationship between the Republican Party and the president is lukewarm at most, at very most. And in all aspects, and, forgive me, my GOPers, you're not going to like it, but I'm going to say it. From where I'm sitting, and my point of view, and people I've talked to and observed, I think it'd be a cold day in hell before the Republican Party fully supports President Trump in any of his issues. I think that the party leadership in Congress, I think they have, as a whole, no desire to work with him. I think it's obvious. They really don't have any desire to work with him. And I think Ryan it's very obvious he doesn't. And I think that we're in some very hard times if we're going to get the support that we need to get anything done in Congress, because the president and the leadership will not work together. They don't even want to talk to each other most of the time. The only time they do, you hear reports from the leaders, the ones that were there, saying, yeah, we talked a little bit about this, that, and really no really solid, hard case explanation of what they talked about and what was accomplished or not accomplished. Everybody hedges the issues. And to me, that just tells me one thing. We are not working together. And, for us to have control of Congress and not be able to get anything done is an insult to the voters, the citizens of this country, and they should be ashamed of themselves! Exclamation mark. Personal opinion. Do you think they will, Brian? Do you think they'll start working together? Brian dropped off. I can tell. Yeah. Morning, Dave. How are you?
Good morning.
Good. Well, all right, folks. Well, I'll tell you, I really don't. I just don't see Congress congealing and working together. And Dave, you're here. Have you seen any indication that that's going to take place?
No, I doubt it. The next thing they're going to screw around with is the tax reform thing, and they already screwed that up.
Well, they can screw it up more, believe me.
They already screwed it up.
Yeah. Well, I think the I think Priebus was a good example of someone that made a show. Now, whether it was a good show, a legitimate movie, or if it was a fake movie, I'm not in a position to say. But I think he did give some in trying to make things work. But I don't believe that he in my opinion, folks, I really don't believe Reince Priebus ever thought it would work. And this whole thing of him being in there was for show only. I'll go to my death believing that. It was too big of a mismatch to start with. I mean, come on, let's face it. It just was not a couple made in heaven, believe me. And it was a marriage that was due to be divorced or annulled, one or the other. But it just wasn't there. And I just don't see it happening. I'm sorry. I just don't see it happening. And I think that I will tell you this, though. And I hope I'm wrong. But I don't believe I am. I think with Reince Priebus out of the picture, I don't think you're going to see Congress, the Republican Congress members, and probably not the Senate going out of their way to work with President Trump at all. And folks, that is a sad state of affairs. Now, if that doesn't take place, Dave, what will Trump have to do to get anything accomplished?
Oh, the list is long.
And not pretty. And not pretty.
No, like I said, they've even already screwed up this tax thing. They're going to keep playing games, like has been mentioned in the chat room here, till the 2018 elections are over. We're going to see where the chips are going to fall after that. Is more GOP going to be in, or are they going to start losing seats and Dems are going to get
right?
We're really going to have to wait till after that to see and be able to predict what the next move is going to be.
Yeah.
Right now, even before the 2018, I don't know if anybody's been following the news or following the reports on what's going on, but you even have the Koch brothers and everything else now because of the screw up that the GOP did on this tax bill already out there. You're going to see multi-million-dollar ads and everything else going on right now.
Oh, they've already started. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to be cutting up both sides, Democrats and GOP, because both of them dropped the ball on this one.
Yeah.
Because you don't understand, this is all attached to the stock market, the economy, and all the rest. And just by already announcing, watch the market start to crash, folks. I'll tell you that right now.
Don't say that. Don't say that. My wife and I this weekend were talking about how good the funds are doing and how much it's going to be great to have those in a couple of years when she retires. Don't hex our retirement, Dave. Please, not right now. 4 years from now, do it because we'll have it somewhere else, okay? But not right now, please.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, sell high, buy low. Right now, you're at its high.
Yeah, that's right.
I sell it off everything I friggin' own, take that profit, take the profit out, then turn around and reinvest a little bit and wait for it to start crashing and then reinvest again. That's how you play the market.
Yeah.
But they've already let it out, leaking or however it came about. But yeah, they already dropped the 20% border tax project.
Yeah.
The second they did that, every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there in big corporations came out and said, "You're lost your mind."
Yeah.
Because now, at best, you're looking at a 25% corporate tax rate when it's supposed to be down to 15.
Uh-huh.
All right, 15, 20 was what was the projection. Now you're looking at best 25, and you lost trillions of dollars by cutting this portion out of this tax reform.
Mm-hmm.
It screwed up. And I'm telling you, watch the market start to crash, folks. I'd be surprised if it didn't.
Oh, don't say that. Please, shut up.
They're going to hold off until the final bill is done, all right, and see what they do with the corporate tax rates in the overall. And yes, 25 does beat the hell out of the 39, but it's a far cry from what the market was expecting. I would seriously expect a market freeze at the moment with the new reports coming out. They're not going to panic and sell off, but I'd expect little to no growth over the next couple of months while Congress plays their game. Because remember, you only got a couple of months left to figure this out, and then the fiscal year is up. All right. They need to do something. Whatever they're going to do, they have to have it done before October. They're running out of time. At the end of October, depending on what bill ends up crossing Trump's desk, if any, is going to determine whether or not the stability in the market maintains or it's going to crash overnight and be the end. It's going to be game over.
Well, it's scary. It is downright scary, folks. And Dave is hitting on a very important point here. Now, you want to see things really get nasty. You want to see some struggling really take place. If you want to see markets drop like bat out of hell, if you want to see jobs lost, if you want to see all these companies like right here in South Carolina in the last 2 weeks that have announced that they're going to be doubling the size of their plants, new plants coming in, just wait and see what happens to those plans if something like what he's talking about takes place. All these thousands of jobs and billions of tax dollars that we're talking about coming into the state, ixnay, bye-bye French fry, adios. Dave, it's scary.
Yeah, well, as scary as it is, there is a couple of glimmers of hopes here. Like I said, panic ain't going to happen until after the final bill is done. Now, if they sit there and do and I think this is the only part I wouldn't swear to because I haven't read enough up on the laws on this side of it. I believe that Trump and just the Treasury Department can do this even without Congress. And what I'm talking about is they can do a one-time amnesty for bringing the money back into the U.S. So you got all these corporations with trillions upon trillions of dollars offshore right now. Right.
Dave, I heard somebody talking about that on one of the, I can't remember which talk show it was. I heard someone talking about that, and I did hear something about a one-time amnesty.
Yeah, now if they do something like that to bring the cash flow in, that will offset that 25. Neil says he's heard the number is 22. Which is it's not bad. So if they'll give the amnesty for all that's offshore money, a one-time amnesty, you do it. You got 6 months to bring it all in, or whatever it is. Get your money all back. Bring all your money in without having to worry about the tax man issue, and get that money flowed back into the economy. You're going to see the stock market will maintain stable and actually continue to grow.
Right.
Even at the 20 to 25% marking on the corporate side, depending on what they do with everybody else. obviously, as well. Because remember, you still got the middle class and everybody else involved
Right.
in this as well, but not as to a large of a degree. It's just a matter of the perception at that point, But the corporate issue, when they took this out for the 20% border tax issue, when they removed that from the bill to make Democrats or whoever happy, they really screwed up, because they even hurt the Democratic Party when they did that. Democrats hurt themselves, which ain't a big deal. I like when they hurt themselves, but you have a lot of major corporations that are diehard Democrats that are now all of a sudden, you messed up big time. And you're going to see a lot of money flowing right now to get this fixed, because that is one way of leveling this playing field. We cannot continue with the unfair, the uneven game plan that's in place now. We lose way too much dollars with the way the taxes are, and the import tax, export taxing, the trade deficit is just, the deficit is too out of whack, and that has to be adjusted. And the best way to adjust that is by the border tax, and they knocked it out already. So they already took that off the off the chessboard there, if you will. And that was not a very smart move. They really screwed up. Whoever did that, whoever came up with that one, they screwed up big time.
Yeah.
So we'll see. But they got a couple of months to figure it out. Right now, they're away. Everybody's saying they're going to, focus on this tax bill now and get this done. Like I said, they got till October, I believe. We'll see where the chips lie after, after Congress gets done with all their committees and nonsense that they're going to do. Until we finally get something put together. But
I know that. I'm sorry.
It's going to be rocky for a little bit.
I know that Tom Rice has been on this program several times, my congressman from the district I live in, and I know that he has, I think it's 8 different community events scheduled while he's home, making the rounds, addressing people and all that, and he's got some telephone town hall sessions set up, so he's going to be making rounds while he's here, and I'm going to try to make a few of those myself and see what happens. Matter of fact, I might try to one day follow him around and maybe record some of this stuff and just play it back on the show so everybody can hear firsthand what's being asked and his comments and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to see if I can't do that. Time and his schedule and mine working together might be able to do at least one, I hope. But anyway, well, okay. I believe that going back to the going back to the resignation of Priebus, I do think that right now would be an excellent time for Trump to jumpstart, for lack of a better term, his agenda. I think that this would be an opportune time to try to put some extra octane in his gasoline tank. And I'm hoping that's exactly what he'll do. I think that there are some things that he's really going to have to watch, though. I think his new communications director is well, he's a younger Trump in some aspects. Let's just put it this way. And I think he's going to be a rough person to work with. But at the same time, sounds like that's what they want. I think that he had a bad start with his vulgarity to begin with. And I think that, he got slapped on the hand by the public and the media with that. I think that Trump for the last few weeks has been getting beat up pretty bad with his bad talk about Sessions. I wish and I hope that he will back off on that. But you know what? I've been wishing and hoping for him backing off on a lot of stuff he does on Twitter, but he's still doing it. I think that Senate Republicans, and I'm trying to summarize this real quick. I think the Senate Republicans need to work harder on working together and work harder to pass some legislation that hasn't been passed that would have overhauled our health care situation. I don't think that's a dead issue yet. I hope they get their act together and come back with something that would be beneficial and passable. I think that those are just some of the things that they're going to have to work on when they get, as they come back in. I just don't have the confidence, though, that it's going to take place. I think a lot of these conservatives are going to be taking some heat when they get home. I think that there's going to be a lot of discussions. That's one reason I want to go with Tom Rice to some of these events he's going to be doing. I want to be there and hear for myself exactly what is being said and how it's being said and who is saying it. You know, the last big event I went with to Tom Rice was here in Florence, my hometown, and it was standing room only. There's as many people outside as there was inside, and it was probably 50-50 as far as GOPers and the liberals, demos and other liberals. It was probably 50-50. And I was really proud of him and the way he handled everything, and the fact that about half of the group was outside, could not get into the facility. There was just nowhere to put them. And fire department was one of the ones that said, hey, shut the door. You can't get any more in here. And for safety reasons. And he went out and addressed all of them the same amount of time outside as he did with those inside. And he did a very good job there. And I hope that he will concentrate on doing just as good a job talking to everyone when he makes his rounds here this next week. We'll see. But I will tell you, I think it's very clear some Republicans simply were not afraid of breaking with a weakened president. And right now he is weakened because of all the things that are going on. I'm sorry, you Trump lovers, but I believe he is in a precarious situation right now. And he needs to start trying to figure out what he's going to do to rebound and get organized and get stuff done. He is supposed to be the leader. Act like a leader. Quit being a crybaby and a gossiper. Get some work done, okay? You know, I think that because of the things that are going on, I think that he, would someone please tell me any really substantial legislation that has been passed or shot down even? Anything. I can't think of any. I think that his really only major win or accomplishment, however you want to say it, was his executive powers. Some of the things he's done there, I think the rolling back the regulations and then doing a few of his Obama's achievements were good, like the Paris climate issue. I think his nomination of Neil Gorsuch good. I think, well, I can't think of much else, personally. I just can't. I will tell you this, though. I'll bet you the Republicans coming home to their districts are going to catch some H-E-double-L. And I hope they do. Maybe they need to have a call to Jesus moment themselves. But we'll find out. We'll find out. All right. Speaking of things coming up, hey, folks, Tuesday is a very special night. August the 1st, Tuesday, 2017, is the National Night Out event. As you know, the National Night Out event is an annual community building campaign that promotes police and community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make all of our living much better and safer. So tomorrow, Tuesday, the 1st, is National Night Out. And all 50 states do this, and the territories and Canadian cities and military bases all over, except Texas. Texas celebrates it on the first Tuesday in October. Don't ask me why. You know, Texas, I'm Texan. We just like to do things our way, do things a little different. And so they're going to do theirs on October, in October, first Tuesday. I know right here in Florence, our hometown, where I'm at now, we're going to have a special event celebrating this year at the Leatherman Senior Citizen at Freedom, Florence. The doors will open at 4 p.m. and the program will start at 6 p.m. This is according to the Florence County Sheriff's Department's release. It is a great event. Mike Nunn, Major Mike Nunn, who, by the way, is a retired attorney and was on the plane that crashed in the Hudson River, by the way. He's quite famous for that, I guess. And he was shown in the movie at the end of it. And they were showing the people that were actually on the plane during the credits. He was shown in there. So anyway, this year's event at the Freedom Florence, there's going to be free hamburgers, hot dogs, snow cones, popcorn, soft drinks. There'll be some awards presented to Florence youth and adults who are making a difference in their community. There will be door prizes. And he said, we are honored this year to have the guest speaker, Chief Mark A. Kill of the South Carolina State Law Enforcement Division, SLED, our state police. And so if you're interested in doing that or being a corporate sponsor, get in touch with Sergeant Priscilla Zimmerman at 843-319-4393 or email her at pzimmerman@FCSO, which is Florence County Sheriff's Office, .org. And looking forward to that event. I'm sure it's going to be very, very good. Very, very good. And I think that our neighborhood where I live, they're talking about everybody that's not at that event, of course, coming outside on the front porch, bring your lawn chairs and everything out front, and everybody just sitting around having a chit-chat, talking, have a good time. So good for them. Good for them. All right. Let's see here. A few other odd and ends. Dave, do you have anything you want to bring up while I pull up other things here, or are you okay?
Yep, I'm good. Just sitting back, buying my time like everybody else to see where all these chips are going to.
There you go. Oh, coming back into town yesterday, we were coming down the highway, and you would have thought the entire city of Florence was in flames. I mean, we got up close enough, and we saw fire trucks from every fire department around Florence County. I mean, out of county even. There were people here from the Windy Hill Fire Department, the City of Florence, Howell Springs Fire Department, Darlington County Fire Departments, South Lynch's River Fire Department, Sardis Timmonsville Fire Department, as well as Florence County EMS. And what it was, a hotel caught fire over here right next to I-95, and you could not see nothing. There was so much smoke, flames. I mean, it was terrible. There was over 300 people in the hotel. They got them all out, no injuries. And they of course, they're trying to figure out now what caused the fire. And but the first call came in at 2:28, and when they arrived, the call went out for all area help, get over here. And now this hotel is an older hotel, and it's actually probably, I don't know this for sure, but it'd be close, I think, having more permanent residents in that hotel than they do actual travelers that stay there. But, you know, those people are now homeless. Several of them are now homeless. And so that's going to be a predicament. But they said that the fire was, the flames were real high. Of course, you know, it's hot and dry here right now. And they sure could have used some of that rain we've had over the last month yesterday. But anyway, I'm going to go by there and cast my eyes on it myself here after the show and see what goes on from there. Let's see, chat room. I hear it clicking. Let's see. We'll make them miss the early bird specials at the restaurants. Yeah. Dow is falling up. Dow is falling up. Okay. Another 75 points higher. Another new record. Bring it on. Susan, retirement fund getting better, girl. Dave, keep your mouth shut. Don't drive it down. Okay. Leave it alone. So, all right. Let's see. Someone sent me a message last night about the omnibus bill, what's going on. And, you know, we were talking, first of all, let me say, you know, the first responsibility of this country is our security. Okay? That's our security, number one. This week, the House will take up appropriations package for national security priorities. It will include a package for national security priorities. It will include military construction, veterans, energy, water, and the legislative branch. Okay. There are a list of things that I think you should be looking at and see what's going on. I jotted down my ideas, and then I looked some things up, and some of them were mine, and I added some that weren't on my list. But just kind of give you an idea of some of the things that you may be seeing. One, will it fully fund, and looking at it on paper right now, it does, fully fund President Trump's 2018, fiscal year 2018, $1.6 billion request for a wall along our southern border. Well, there you go. Okay. Another one, it gives our service members a much-deserved pay raise. Matter of fact, I believe I read somewhere on one of the papers out of state that it was going to be the largest pay raise in 8 years to our military members. Okay. It also takes the next step in efforts to rebuild our military with substantial increases for the Department of Defense. I hope it goes to rebuilding and not foo-fooed away. It will pay for updated equipment and weapons so that our men and women serving abroad are fully equipped and prepared for whatever evolving events that might threaten their area, including modern warfare and defense. One of the other things in it is it will fund military infrastructure so that our service members can be safe and prepared. That's a quote unquote I saw in one article. It will also take care of our vets by providing the highest level of funding ever for the Department of Veteran Affairs. Now then, as you know and I know, just because you fund it doesn't mean that money's going to be used the way it should be. Hopefully there's some checks and balances there and things like that will take place. Fletcher says most privates families live on food stamps. You know, that's a shame, but you know that's true. Fletch, that is true. I've got a friend of ours who has a son, and they were talking about that one day, and I overheard the conversation, and I found that a sad state of affairs. Sad state of affairs. You know, when I was in, I could have got food stamps. I could have got assistance, but I didn't. I just could not. I'm sorry. I just could not get. I couldn't do it. I don't know why. I should have, I guess, but I couldn't. Anyway. One of the other things, it has a program to deter and defend against attacks by increasing funds for Department of Energy's nuclear weapons program. I think there's also in there, it authorizes EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, to withdraw from the Obama administration's disastrous waters of the U.S. WOTUS rule, WOTUS, WOTUS rule. And it also increases funding for the Capitol Police, who I guess you have to say it, you know, it is a tough job, I guess, protecting members of Congress, their staff, and visitors in our nation's capital. This will increase the security at the Capitol and at home in our districts. So that's another thing's going on. And so I think this is one of the things that, and it was also in that package, will ensure that Americans abroad are protected also. So those are some of the things that are going to be in that package, and it'd be worth paying attention to and see how those things go. All right, let's see here. Maybe instead of paying fry cooks more than our military, we need priority checks. There you go. There you go. Okay, let's see, here's a question message sent me here. Will the White House and Senate pass health bill now or else? Will they pass it now or else? Well, I tell you what, if they don't pass it now, heaven knows what else will come. I think Mick Mulvaney, also from South Carolina, I think Mick Mulvaney will do his best to get it passed. You know, to make things work. I think that it's time for them to move on and get something done. And Neil says, I don't want them to. I want them to wait till bills come in October. Okay. I think that since they've got this 5-week recess going, nothing's going to take place. I don't think they're going to be called back early. I just don't believe it. Someone asked me that in another message earlier this morning. No, I don't think they'll be called back. I think if they're home, they're home. So I hope that answers that question. So there's that. Also, someone asked about a back seat alarm law that is being looked at in Arizona. So early this morning, I pulled up some information on that. And yes, there is a child advocacy group in Arizona that is trying to get a law passed that will require back seat alarms. So that, you know, if you get out of your car and you don't look back there and you don't get your kids out, an alarm will go off to let you know, hey, you got kids in the back seat. You need to get them out of your car, take them in with you so they don't stay in that car and die of heat exhaustion, heat stroke. You know, there's been several kids this summer that have died for that reason. There is every summer. And folks, I am so sorry, but I just cannot understand how you forget you've got a child in your back seat. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I just do not understand that. I don't. But a proposed new law would require car makers to build alarms for back seats. It's really being pushed by child advocates who say it will prevent kids from dying in hot cars. And so there is a bill like that, and there is technology for those alarms already. As a matter of fact, I think there are some people that's already using those of some sort as we talk. And okay, in the chat room, the child may be sleeping. You normally don't have children. Can't see it happening a lot, but does. Yeah, it does. And I actually last summer called the police because I was at the world's best or most famous department store, Walmart. And in that car, in child seats, in the back seat, were two children. And it was hot. I mean, to tell you, it was hot outside. Heat index that day was supposed to be like 114 or something like that. It was in the teens. So 13, 14, whatever, it's hot. And that sun shining on that car through those windshields and windows was hot. So I did call the police. And I stood there until they got there. The mama come walking out about the same time the police car pulled up. Did she get a scolding? Oh, my word, she got a scolding. Good for her. I was only in for 10 minutes. Wrong. I stood there for 15 minutes and I had my wrench in my hand. I was going to bust that window. I probably should have, but, you know, I didn't know what the right thing to do or not. So I was watching them very close. Anyway, so I think it's a crying shame you got to have a law like this to start with. Again, this is one of those things that whatever happened to parental judgment, you don't forget you got two kids sitting in car seats. How can you forget that? How can you? I don't accept it. I don't accept it. I don't accept it. But anyway, there are laws like that are being worked on to get them passed. And, you know, God help us. It's a shame we got to have them. But if it saves a life, what do you say? What do you say? Okay. Also, This is news breaking. You need to understand this, and and I don't mean this to be sexist. I don't mean for it to be racist, but the reports from Georgia say that black women are picking up firearms for self-defense. More and more black women are taking the courses so they can have concealed weapons, and they say that it is setting all kinds of records for not only the number of women getting concealed weapon permits, but black women, African-American women, or whatever the term you want to use. I don't like African American. I don't like Irish American. I don't like Scottish American. We're all American. Shouldn't have to distinguish us. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel. Political correctness has gone overboard. Anyway, in Georgia, this is taking place big time. And so one thing you got to understand, if you've ever taken this class, you know what they tell you. If you pull to kill, not to threaten or say, whoa, you pull, you better be willing and able to pull that trigger. So anyway, black women are getting their guns and they're taking these classes so they can protect themselves. And one of the instructors said, I promise you, they are not going to have any trouble, any sympathy, or going through that thought process, are they? And so I did a little research. I didn't have a whole lot of time this morning, but I did a little research. And according to what I found, this is a growing trend across the country, not just black women, but more women in general. And so I have no issue with it. I have no issue with it. But since the question was asked, I looked it up. Okay. Let's see here. It's top of the hour, and that was a good way to end it right there with something different. Thank y'all for being here this morning in the Pickle Barrel. I greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at AmericanPatriotRadio.com, where we'll carry on even more discussions on various other topics. And I do have a pile of things I want to talk about right here, not counting what come up overnight. So y'all have a safe day, and thank y'all for joining me in the Pickle Barrel. And we'll see you back here tomorrow morning at American Patriot Radio. Dave, what's coming up next, sir?
Coming up later on is Kids Corner. And, of course, followed up by Happy Hour at APR. Candy will be back. And more Kids Corner and Chuck Scholl's Golden Radio, Age Radio, and so much more. Check the schedule and stay tuned to AmericanPatriotRadio.com.
All right. Thank you, sir. Everyone have a great day. Have a safe day. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning in the Pickle Barrel. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us. You've been
Have a good
in the Pickle Barrel with author, speaker, commentator, and show host Bill Pickle.
Thank you, folks. Bye-bye.
You are listening to American Patriot Radio.